welcome to episode 002 of Soul Food, This Thing Called Life. And this episode is sponsored by Let It Loose Body Oils and our friend at the audio store, Brian Benning, for our audio work. Thank you so much for sponsoring the show. And thank you all for listening in. Today we have a very, very special guest. I want to welcome Sade of Third Generation Conjure. Thank you, Sade, for joining in. How are you today?
I am great, and thank you for having me. How are you?
I am amazing because not only am I speaking with you, which you're one of my favorite people on the planet, but I just received my package less than 30 minutes ago from Third Generation Conjure. So I have a bunch of goodies to go through after this.
Yes.
And I'm already, as I mentioned before this conversation, I'm already on your page, purchasing more. But first I want to just introduce you and just let our audience, the people who are listening, know who you are and what exactly is Third Generation Conjure and what you all do.
Okay. And once again, I just want to say thank you, for having us, most definitely.
Yeah, you're welcome. It's my pleasure.
But yeah, so we are a spiritual company. We cater mostly to hoodoo and root work. We sell different types of candles. We have baths. We have powders. We also offer different spiritual services, group rituals. I am also a big advocate to educate people. So as far as my customer base is concerned, that's one thing that we lean towards, educating our customers on how to use their products, and also, giving some background history on the work of hoodoo and root work.
Well, you've definitely educated me. I've had to kiss a lot of frogs to get to you all. A lot of frogs I had to find that go through. But so just to break down what hoodoo is for listeners who may have a different idea of what you actually do, just break it down a little bit for the beginners, if you don't mind.
Okay, so different spiritual practices now I feel are mainstream nowadays. And as far as hoodoo is concerned, hoodoo is basically an African spirituality practice that originated here in the Americas. It was created by slaves who were brought to America as a result of the transatlantic slave trade. So all of the practices that we practice today are practices that were passed down to us. Practices that I learned from my grandma, my great grandma. These practices were, I think, what a lot of people don't realize is these were practices of oppressed people. These were practices of slaves, and they were used for survival. A survival mechanism. So they weren't allowed to practice their religion or their religious practices here in America. Because if they did, they may be beaten, they may be killed. So what happened with the origination of hoodoo, as they coined the term, is just different practices using roots and herbs that were native to this land for basically survival. So they're magical practices, if you want to call them that, for different purposes, for protection, for a multiple array of purposes. But I think a lot of people, get the misconception that it's something that's demonic or evil just because it's something that's been put in Hollywood and, propaganded like that. But it is basically traditional, the use of traditional herbs and roots, and also honoring and venerating ancestors is basically what the practice is.
And when you say honoring and venerating ancestors, what do you mean by that?
Okay, so with ancestor veneration, and I think a lot of people get a misconception with that as well, because, even when I began to focus on educating, I had a lot of people who were new. So basically, when you say ancestor veneration or honoring your ancestors, they're thinking that you're praying to your ancestors as if they're, a god or something. Mm-hmm. But basically, the practice of ancestor veneration is acknowledging your ancestors. honoring them, because the belief is the ancestors help us in this physical realm. They're spirits that have walked this earth, that who are a part of us. So with honoring them, I guess we won't get into details right now, maybe later on, but that's setting up an altar, even just acknowledging that they exist and thanking them for helping us in this realm and helping us in our daily lives.
Right. I saw a post someone made not too long ago, and I'm looking it up right now, and it says ancestor mathematics. It says you two parents, you have four grandparents, 8 great grandparents, 16 second great, and then 32, and 64. So when you think about our lineage and how much, and all of the victories they've had and the sorrows they've had and the love that they've had and the experience that they've had, and the idea of having access to all of that information is incredibly powerful.
It is.
And that's what sort of attracted me to, and in the beginning I didn't know what to do, because people work with Orishas and all of these other things that I don't know very much about. But the concept of ancestors, because I love my grandma,
Right.
And I know she loved me, I know they love me. So, of course, I felt comfortable venerating them in that way, or honoring them, because, like you said, there's things that we won't go into now because it's very deep.
Right.
But venerate, I know that my grandmother, she used to make me coffee when I was in kindergarten. She ran out of hot chocolate. She'd make me coffee, when I came home. And now the way that I venerate her is I offer her coffee, in mornings time. So I think that it's a comforting thing.
Yes, it is.
So I think that's amazing. And so the difference between hoodoo and, venerating our ancestors and working with Orishas is something quite different, wouldn't you say?
I would say, especially where I was brought up, like I said, a lot of people are getting more into spirituality in today's time. So, they're looking into, different Orishas, and, you have some people who are looking into even voodoo and working with different Loas. But, in hoodoo, in the practice of hoodoo, we do not work with Orishas. I mean, that's how I was taught. I can't say, I'm from Alabama, so, I'm just how I teach, and I tell my people all the time, my clients and my customers, I tell them all the time that I teach you how I learned in Alabama versus, any other region, because you may have someone from Louisiana who does something differently. That's not to say that what they're doing is wrong. That's just to say that, that's not how I was brought up. That's not how I was taught. Because anytime you go to different regions, things may get changed up. People may do things differently. So basically, in this practice, how I learned, we only worked with ancestors. And some people, you may see them, they work with saints in the Bible. But, as far as me growing up, we work with our ancestors. We venerated our ancestors. And that's who, we called on if we're, for even if we're doing any kind of work, you'll ask your ancestors to assist you. You'll ask your ancestors to protect you. That's just, how I was brought up.
Sure. And like in the practice of Santeria, the more Latin based, they use a lot of saints in that.
Exactly.
That because they, that's what they know. That's what they're comfortable with. And so, yeah, I wanted to, you talked about Alabama hoodoo. And your family, your lineage, that's where you're from. That's where you guys are rooted, correct?
Correct. Yes.
So, and we hear a lot of your customers and people who follow you guys. We hear a lot about Mama Conjure. She's like this amazing, powerful entity. But she's kind of like the captain that runs the ship, correct?
She is, yes. She runs a tight ship.
Tell us a little about Mama Conjure, because we don't really get to hear about her very much.
Okay, so Mama Conjure, that's my mom. So she's actually the one who makes all of the oils, all of the baths and the powders. She's the one that does that. And my mom, she's kind of old school, so you probably won't hear much from her. She has me at the front lines. I'm the one that deals with the customers, and I'll ask her too, because I'll tell people this if it's something that I don't know, because I'm not going to say that I know everything. She's more experienced than me, so I will ask her things too. Like if someone writes me and I have a question, then I'll run it by her too and say, hey, what do you think about this, Mom? And she'll give me her opinion. But
yeah, well, when you say old school, because back in the day, people you never know who the root worker was in town.
Exactly, yeah, and that's kind of how that is how she is. Yes. So that's why you're not gonna see her. You probably not gonna hear from her. She's just more, like I said, she's just more old school, because, like you said, it was something even when it originated with the slaves, they couldn't practice. They couldn't do their practices in open. Um, they couldn't practice in open. It was done under coventry of secrecy. Right. So I think as the years went on, as well as it was passed down to generations, it just that's what it was, and it just stuck with that. You may have a lady who we never referred to it as hoodoo. Mm. We referred to it as work, or you may have somebody else, that lady, she works roots. Sure. That may be something that you may hear, but a lot of times too, you may not never know who that lady is. It's someone down the street who can, do some healing work, and that may be who you're sent to, or you may get a bath sent to you. You never really knew a lot of times who exactly, that person was. Mm-hmm. You just knew. You just knew about it. You heard about it, but you never saw it. It wasn't like anything that was broadcast, like, hey, I can help you. I work roots. Sure. That's just not, that's just not how it was. But it's
which is so interesting now, because there's so many people, especially the era of social media, mm-hmm. where people posting and boasting, really.
Yeah, exactly.
About I'm a practitioner of voodoo, hoodoo, whatever. And just putting it all out there. And that was one of the things that attracted me to you guys. It's like, you're like, no, we don't need to, our work speaks for ourselves. And like you said, we may not see Mama Conjure, but we definitely feel Mama Conjure. Yeah. The power of all of the generation, we definitely, and anyone listening can go to their website, www.thirdgenerationconjure.com, and read the reviews, and read for yourself. I mean, I have some reviews posted myself, because I've actually used your products, and they've worked. And like I said, I mean, this is like a 6-year journey for me. I started, researching these practices about 6 years ago, and that's a whole nother story. But when I got to you guys, I was like, oh, this.
And I think the thing with hoodoo is, it's not something it's not a religion. It's a spiritual practice. So it's not anything that requires any kind of initiation, right, or anything like that. It's really and it's really not complicated, which I think a lot of people too, they want something that's overly complicated. Like they may buy a candle from us that's already a dressed candle, and then they want this elaborate mm-hmm. ritual or steps to go through, and it's really not that complicated. Like I've had people, what do I need to do with the candle? Okay, if you want to write a petition, a petition is what you want, what you desire, then you can do that and burn the candle, or you can just set your intentions, like, hey, like if I'm doing just a candle or something, I may say, I ask my ancestors to help me with this job, if I'm trying to get a job, with this job, and I might just light that candle, and that's it. Mm-hmm. It's nothing that's over the top. It's nothing elaborate. And I think that's a lot of that's a lot of reason. It's a very beginner friendly practice, so it's not anything that's going to be real difficult to learn.
Right. And I mean, and it's been a blessing, because you do, make it simple. And I've run into people. You got to jump on your head, and
Yeah.
do a cartwheel and spin around. Ain't nobody got time for all that. You know what I mean? I just talk to my ancestors and let's have a conversation. Let's get this done. You know what I mean? So,
Right.
so how would you, as a beginner, for people who are interested or curious, and actually people who are just struggling and need a breakthrough in their life, what would you recommend to them, and how would you recommend that they start?
Well, I always recommend people to start with their ancestors, because if you develop, and what I have realized from the results that people have gotten, people who have a relationship develop with their ancestors, their things tend to move a little bit quicker. It tends to work a little bit stronger. Mm-hmm. So, my first advice is to develop a relationship with their ancestors, whether that's putting up an ancestor altar, and I got some educational resources for that too, explaining how to do that. But, I know some people, they may say, hey, I'm living with someone and they're not comfortable with it. Even if you just took a small glass of water or a shot glass and put it on your dresser and just say, hey, I just want to acknowledge you, my ancestors known and unknown. I thank you, for helping me, for guiding me. That's something simple, and that's giving them acknowledgement. So that's the first step that I would say to start with. As far as getting into any kind of products that we sell or any kind of other works within Hoodoo, I always tell people to work on cleansing first. That's something that you need to start with, and cleansing is about taking a spiritual bath. That's about getting any kind of negative or stagnated energy off of you to allow for better things to come into your life, and to also even just help you emotionally. Because, I've even had people who've had, depression issues, and, they take a cleansing bath and they tell me, hey, I took that cleansing bath, the next day I woke up, I felt 100 times better. So I think that those are two of the biggest steps that I would take if you're starting out.
That's amazing. The cleansing bath, ancestors, and what else would you like people to know about, what the work that you do?
Basically, as far as our work and the work of any other spiritual spiritual workers that cater to people that are in the Hoodoo practice. I think it is a misconception that, it's something demonic or something evil. Mm-hmm. And I'm just here to say, that's not true. It's not true by any means. Right. We are, it's a spiritual practice. It's not a religion. It's just a spiritual practice. And I think that, anyone can honor their ancestors, because if you look at even religious practice, even if you're of Christian faith, Hoodoo uses the Bible a lot in the practices, which is probably another podcast that we may need to talk about. Exactly. But we use Psalms and we use the Bible in the practice as well. So I think that even if you are of Christian faith, this will be something that you may be comfortable with. But I just think that people should know that this is not something that's demonic or something that is evil. This is something, like I stated, was done by an oppressed group of people, and it was done for survival. And nowadays we use it in different ways. We use it, it could be survival because we use it for cleansing. We use it for protection. We use it for progression in life. With any kind of practice, you have people who may do evil things with it, regardless of whatever practice that you're getting into. So, you may have somebody who works Hoodoo and they do nothing but baneful practices, but that's not what it's about. but that's with any practice that you get into.
Exactly. And that's kind of that was my introduction. My ancestors, they were like, as long as you do it for the good of all, no harm will come to you. So I went into this realm with that mindset. More of a healing, more of a freeing of the oppressed.
Exactly.
Starting with myself and then out towards my family and my friends. So I definitely, my mind was changed, because I grew up with people telling me this was evil and demonic, but at the same time having family members practicing it. So I was like, who do I believe? Who do I,
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful to know, to be closer to the truth now. And it's such an amazing, and I have third generation of Conjure to thank for that. And I want you to share with the listeners just quickly, well, not quickly, you can stay, take as long as you want. I'm here all day. But let people know how if they have any further questions, let the listeners know how they can reach you and contact you, and any tools you have that they can listen to. I know you have videos up on YouTube, so let the listeners know.
Okay, so if you need any kind of supplies, you can visit our website. Even if you need any kind of spiritual services, our website is www.thirdgenerationconjure.com. For those who are more familiar with the Etsy platform, we do have an Etsy shop as well, and the website for that is www.thirdgenerationconjure.store. And you can also follow us on Instagram. It's Third Generation Conjure, and our Facebook is also Third Generation Conjure. And lastly, our YouTube, I do post educational videos. I have a video on how to set up an ancestor altar, also, step-by-step cleansing, how to take a spiritual bath. And you can find us on YouTube, and that's also Third Generation Conjure.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing your time. I am so grateful.
Thank you.
And I'm putting my new list together, my shopping list. I'm going shopping.
And I'm pretty sure, if you want, I'll come back anytime, because it's a lot that we can talk about.
Oh, there's so much. And I'm sure I would love to have you back for part 2. And I'm sure I'm going to have some questions from listeners after this for sure. So we can definitely revisit this. So give my, I wanted to say this, I wanted to mention that your business is a family. Like, it's not just you and your mom. Like, you have your husband's involved.
Yes. It's a whole family business. Like, it initially started with me and my mom, but my husband is involved. My husband is actually one of the ones that helps us with our candles, and my dad's also involved. And auntie, so yes, it's like a whole family affair.
You have auntie, and auntie gets in there sometime, right?
Yeah, she does. She helps us. She helps me a little bit with the customer base. She may answer some of my emails, and she'll collab with me on some videos sometimes. So she helps us out a lot as well. But yes, it's like a whole family affair.
So yes, every listeners, please, when you support Third Generation Conjure, you're supporting a whole family. So
and we appreciate you guys. We really do.
And we love you guys. So thank you so much. And thank you to the listeners for tuning in. Tune in next time. And until then, be safe. There is a pandemic going on, so be safe out there.
Oh, yeah.
Take care of yourself.